Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening to everybody. My name is Barbara Ehrentrue, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Melissa Begley. And we are here to delve into the subjects that people don't usually write about or talk about in poetry. And we have had some wonderful meetings with a lot more people. But there's just the two of us. We're the core. So we're going to throw around some poems together and talk a little. It might be an abbreviated session, but we're here. So I'm going to let Melissa start. And
well, hello, everybody, and hello, Barbara. And I'm so glad you joined me in our poetry initiative. And it's interesting. It's just you and me today, and that's okay because we can still be productive and we can still discuss the important topic of demeaning behaviors. And I'm going to go ahead and recite my poem. And then after you recite your poem, we can engage in a discussion. So, and I do hope you're having a happy Saturday.
I'm trying.
I know, right? Demeaning. And this is just a fantasy poem. It's not based upon reality. There might be some realistic aspects of it, but it's basically, poetry, where it's not always real. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Demeaning. The lustrous sheen of beauty was bestowed upon her, coupled with intellectual abilities and honest temperament. At 2 years of age, the elder sister was envious of her baby sister. She was no longer the center of attention. The mastermind of jealousy was petulant. She humiliated her sister amongst their friends and family members. The parents did not notice since their focus was on loving their daughters. She ridiculed her sister's appearance, laughing at her ugliness. Belittling her at school and with friends was an everyday occurrence. Her younger sister excelled in academics, band, dance, and was deemed shy but charismatic. The older sister even lit her younger sister's blonde hair on fire, but the damage was minimal. The older sister married, but requested that her younger sister engage in inappropriate activities with men for monetary gains. No man would ever love or marry an unsightly female, so the game was to lure men into sexual activities for financial compensation. The younger sister was humiliated and refused to engage in such murky activities. She assumed her role in life was without purpose. That evening, she consumed her father's high blood pressure medication. She was found in her room unconscious and was rushed to the emergency room. 10 days in the intensive care unit prior to being moved to a regular hospital room. A consult for psychiatry was initiated. She did not reveal the years of cruel and degrading behaviors by her sister, protecting the family's respected reputation. The attainment of knowledge to detach from her sister's darkness resolved the life of encountering demeaning and condescending behaviors. Her older sister became an alcoholic, but is still perceived as a wonderful and pleasing person. She went on to destroy the self-esteem of her own children, but nobody seemed to be concerned.
Whoa.
And I think the reason I wrote that is because I think sometimes people are demeaned their whole life.
They are in so many ways.
Very sad.
So sad. I'm just going to get more light on here because it's getting dark. For some reason at 11 o'clock in the morning. I just wonder why. it is. So, the whole thing about, yeah, that's right. Okay. So the whole thing about demeaning behavior is that people can live with that situation their whole life and they don't do well. That's awful. That poem showed all the ways that people can suffer because of demeaning behavior. Mine is more general, but still. Demeaning behavior. When someone is degraded, ridiculed, and abused in this fashion, sometimes it's hard to see. Covered up by the surreptitious behavior of the perpetrators, it can go unnoticed for years, swept under the rug of life and accepted by the victim as normal. This demeaning behavior degrades human beings until they are little more than empty vessels, devoid of feeling or desires, and serving only this master or mistress. Sometimes it is culturally acceptable and never changed, and goes on for centuries, codified by tradition. No one deserves to be demeaned by another for someone else's ends. Forced to abide by the whims of a tyrant, their lives tattered by the destruction of their pride, brought down by the vicious and underhanded treatment of these victims. And what of the victims who have lived through this torture? Will they ever be able to feel safe and loved? When their every move is legislated by the passions of another, this can never be. And after they escape such a fate, they may not be able to live a normal life, for they have never led one. Will they ever know human kindness or the soft touch of another? Or will they be doomed to a life of sorrow and misery, always trying to catch up and never succeeding with bruised egos and spotty confidence? With the demeaning voices forever in their heads, telling them they will never be any good, and reliving all of the old miseries to keep their faith in themselves at an ebb.
Yeah, you have captured the essence, similar to what I did, is that it's always swept under the rug too often, too frequently, and sometimes it is never revealed for what it is. And it's unfortunate. I do not know why that people have to treat other people like that. Like you stated, some of it is cultural, some of it is just mean spirited, and based upon jealousy, cruelty. Like as in mine, the person that was demeaning the little sister, ended up being an alcoholic, because you certainly cannot be happy with yourself or have any self-esteem if you're demeaning other people. It's just, there's no character there. And
No, yes, it's not, it can happen at any age to any person.
absolutely.
And it's happened to me frequently and to you. And just recently, it happened to me in a very, very bad way. So you can be demeaned by somebody without knowing it. And it's just really a very awful situation. And I keep going back to that book I read, The China Room. Did we discuss this on here?
I do not think that we have discussed that before.
Okay, this is The China Room is a book about an Indian woman who is married to one of three brothers, and the other two women are living with her in this room, this very tiny room, which
Yeah,
holds the china.
we have discussed this, but
Yeah,
still proceed.
but the mother of these brothers is so demeaning to these women. Has them live in this room where they're living basically on cots in very, very tight quarters where they have to live constantly and make their food and serve food, make the food for people to serve, and then serve the food, and then serve the men. And it's just a very demeaning situation. And eventually, in the book, one of those women decides to give it up and leave. And it's just, it's awful. Demeaning behavior takes away all feeling of confidence in people.
Yeah, it definitely diminishes a person's healthy attitude about themselves. And that becomes very dangerous. I mean, I know that people have insecurities, but insecurities is much different than having your self-worth devalued to the point that you see no value in yourself either. And extreme demeaning behavior can do that. And I think especially in today's world of technology with the internet, Facebook, that it's become more noticeable amongst young people, the bullying and the demeaning behaviors towards each other, or maybe they target one individual in particular. And I think that's very sad because it does lead to suicide, and it does lead to a lot of maybe inappropriate behaviors. Maybe that person is just numbing it with alcohol or drugs. But demeaning behaviors is something that parents have to teach their children not to do, that engage in demeaning behavior, bullying, rude comments towards other children. And I don't know about the cultural changes. That takes sometimes decades and centuries to reverse those things.
No, that's very difficult. And but bullying on social media
Yes.
has a very, very bad effect on children, and so it's suggested, I just read something that children, you should only allow your children a certain amount of social media, that you should regulate it, you should know what's going on so that in case anything happens, you're there to protect them. And I don't think teachers really realize how much social media is being used and what's going on. I mean, kids were bullied anyway in school, and now they're bullied on social media. And being bullied on social media is 10 times worse than being bullied in person, because you can't really see your bulliers very much. And, and they can do things that are awful. They can put on false posts. They can do anything to demean you. And it can happen to adults. And I was demeaned by someone who I thought was a friend and turned out to be a scammer. And you can be demeaned in so many ways. And that kind of behavior just takes away all confidence and creates a situation where if you're not able to deal with it, if you're young or vulnerable in any way, it can damage you really hard.
And I think that there is a difference, that when it is somebody that a family member or a friend, or even somebody that you have loved all your life, and they demean you and hurt you and humiliate you, and sometimes do things that other people believe the truth, and you never have a stage where you can undo the harm. And that happens a lot as well, that it is devastating to people. I mean, strangers, they can only hurt you so much, but it doesn't get to your heart. It doesn't get to your soul. And it doesn't really hurt you. It just might make you a little angry, or it might, irritate you. but it's different, like you were talking about, where you trusted an individual that you thought that you knew that this was a worthy person, but they only had ill intentions for you, and that makes a difference, and it does hurt. And unfortunately, we are trusting people and we want to think the best out of other people. And it's a good thing that we can continue to do that. But sometimes people lose all trust in the human race. And there's a darkness that surrounds, their opinions of people. And that's very sad as well. It's very sad when you get to that point.
Yeah, I think that the sadness of that is how people become jaded and cynical.
Yes.
And the cynicism that happens because people have been demeaned creates a conservatism, which they don't want to be demeaned anymore. They don't want to try anything new because they're afraid that they won't be able to do it. And then somebody's going to say, oh, you can't do this. You're so stupid. Or that's what people think. So they don't try new things. They don't accept new things. And so it creates a situation where people are not open.
And
And
that's a good point, where labels create a narrow mindedness in individuals. And that's a good point there, because it does happen, whether it's a 10-year-old child or maybe a 50-year-old male. It does happen. And you know, I don't know how that we can reverse this. It has to start at a very young age. It has to start, probably when the child is a toddler, maybe even before. It has to be something that is, the child is trained in appropriate behaviors. And as far as, you're talking about limiting people's time on the internet, on Facebook, but it's very difficult to do when, especially USA children, have phones. So many have cell phones, their iPhones, their Samsungs, they have their laptops, and
right, and
their
they're
iPads,
on Instagram and TikTok and
and they're
Snapchat and
they're
all
and
these
they're
things.
and the
Yeah,
parents don't always know that. And
yeah,
sometimes, both parents are working, and I don't know how you can actually regulate that unless you do not provide your child a phone. I did have one friend that did not, provide his daughter a phone, and the only time that she could use the computer was in the family room, and she was limited, 2 to 3 hours, as long as a parent was in there. But and she ended up being a school teacher. That's what she does. But I don't know how you can regulate that, because parents, for one thing, they don't want to tell their child no.
no, I think there is a way though these days. There is blocking. You can
There
block
is.
your child from certain sites, and excuse me, you can tell your child that they can only do one thing at a time.
Most children know how to unblock things, have better technological skills than their parents do.
Yeah, I think in the long run that we have to monitor what our children are doing. It's a very important thing that you know exactly where your children are at all times.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. But the only thing is, it takes dedication from our parents to want to do that as well.
Right. And I was listening to some of these celebrity women,
You know,
and they were talking about how they monitor their children. They only let them have 1 hour of TV a night, and they check their um, social media sites, and they're only allowed 1 or 2 sites, so that, and then they can block them from everywhere else, because there's parental blocking on everything now. And I think that's the key is parents have to be watching their children all the time. And if they see behavior that is not what they feel should be acceptable, they should stop it. Because it really starts with the parents. It's just the parents.
Yeah, I agree. Everything starts at the home life, you know,
Mhm.
whether it's the parents raising the child or the grandparents or
Yeah,
um,
right.
another
Everybody.
guardian. Everything starts in the home. And from there, it penetrates other aspects of the child's life, the educational aspect, the classroom, but everything does start at the home. And I do not know how sincere parents are about actually monitoring their child and blocking sites and having the parental blocks, or if they even have the knowledge and the technological expertise to do that,
Mhm.
because there are so many adults that are not very technological and or they have other interests. And as we know, the foster care industry has grown tremendously in the USA. And so there has been a growth of instability in the home life. And when there's a growth of instability in the home life, then there is going to be an increase in bullying, demeaning behaviors, inappropriate behaviors, promiscuous behaviors, drugs and alcohol. And, so just the simplicity of what you're talking about, to monitoring a child and, making sure that you provide an appropriate home life. Unfortunately, that is probably what 1/3 of the United States does not do that anymore.
Mhm.
I don't know what the
Not
percentage is.
probably not due to
I don't know what the
no
percentage is, but
time.
it's high.
Yeah, time is really the thing.
Yeah, time is. And but the only thing is you have to decide what is your priority when it comes to time.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
mean, as far as your children are concerned, your time should always be open, you know?
it should be. I mean, I
Mhm.
personally have known people that when they got home from work, then you know they would go to, activities or physical activities, and they would do a lot of things for their own health and their own mental well-being. But in the meantime, they were not doing that for their children. And their children were pretty much, latchkey children, even though, it should not be like that. And the financial resources was there, but they all should have gone to the gym together. But I've known so many adults that, their needs are being met, but I think while they're doing that, they're not meeting their children's needs. And I think that we have to go back to the family unit. And I think that more, family unit and activities should be done together. And I don't know what you think about that, but
I do think it's important, but I also think organizations should be part of this too. Schools, community centers, where children hang out and things happen that people don't know about. And I mean, in my own book, this girl was bullied. Nobody knew about it.
that's usually the case.
Nobody knew about it. She kept it secret and she never told anyone, except her, best friends who knew. But teachers didn't know. And this kind of thing goes on constantly, but also in community centers where kids go to congregate. Things happen people don't know about.
I think that's the shame factor where people have a lot of shame when they're bullied or they're demeaned and they really do not know how to process it. And so when you have lost your self-worth, at the same time you have tapped into the feeling of shame, And with the shame, you become, a person that does not discuss it. It's silence. Most shame is done in silence. And, there's a lot of times there's no outward signs that somebody is being bullied. There's no signs of bruises or any physical abuse, but, demeaning usually is, as we know, it's a mental abuse, and
Right.
so, how do you find, mental abuse with people if they're not
I
discussing
don't
it,
know.
or,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
they're discussing with their closest friends, but then their closest friends, they're bound to secrecy as well. And they do not want to do anything to, damage their relationship with their very close friends. So it's just, it's just a vicious cycle. And
Yeah. So do you want to read another poem? Do you have another poem?
I don't really have another poem about this topic, but how about you? Do you have another poem about this topic?
I have something called Betrayal.
Okay.
Um,
I'll look to see if I have anything while you read your poem.
okay. Betrayal. In the moments before it happens, your life is a calm sea. After it happens, the waves crash onto the shore and the wind howls until you can't bear it. The ripples in your existence caused by betrayal are invisible to most people who don't know you, yet they create fissures in you so deep you feel you might slip and fall into them. You no longer trust anyone. The innocence under which you lived is gone. The world exists as a menace to you instead of the sweet surroundings you have known. All is alien and nothing is the same. Your equilibrium is off center and you feel it will never come back to where it should be. The torment continues, but once you have been betrayed, you can no longer be the same. Black crayon covers your day, shadows over everything you do, creating distrust, and you fear to let anyone do this to you again. In the deceit of betrayal, there is a breakdown of faith. Belief in the goodness of people no longer exists. You wear a frown as your costume. Smiles hide in your pocket, rarely used. Hope is a wasted exercise you no longer need, and you trudge through your days, praying this will never happen to you again.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And betrayal is something that people do not recover from, because it's always from somebody that is a trusted source, a trusted, loving person. And once again, people cannot hurt you unless you love them, unless you care for that person, and you're betrayed. And that has got to be the one of the deepest and ugliest emotions that a person can encounter.
Yes, because
Betrayal.
when you're betrayed, when someone betrays your trust,
Hmm.
that changes everything.
Yes, it
Because
does.
here you are going along trusting someone, and all of a sudden you can't trust them. They've turned on you, or something happened, and they're no longer this person that you thought they were. And it's very fearful. And
It is very fearful, and I do not think that it is easily recoverable. An easily recovered relationship once betrayal has occurred, and it's just one of the biggest violations that you can do to another human being is to betray them.
to do something against someone who
You,
you deeply trusted.
and usually for
People,
no
yeah, there's some people you thought you could trust, but they turned out to be awful. And I had that experience. But people who you knew for a very long time suddenly turning on you, like this little girl in in your your poem, how her sister just betrayed her.
from the beginning of her life. So she spent her whole life, in demeaning behavior, and and I even mentioned where the parents were focused on loving their children, so they really did not see the negative. And I think most of the times parents do not see the negative impact that children have upon each other, because they're just focused on, the family unit. And so the family unit goes beyond just being together. It actually has to be where parents are observing their children, their behaviors, their personalities,
Definitely.
and and
If you see your child
and the younger daughter.
starting to attack another
Yes,
your other child, then you have to step in, because you can't let that happen. You can't let that kind of behavior happen, because then it only gets more and more. And then they think, oh, mom didn't care. Mom let me do this, so I guess it's all right. I did it while she was there. It's okay to keep, bullying my sister, or, doing these awful things, because mom didn't stop me. And if
but the
mom
only
didn't stop them, schools didn't stop them, where someone else didn't stop them, they can continue to do it forever.
But
Right.
the only thing is sometimes parents do not observe it, because, children can be very deceptive as well. And
Surreptitious.
they
Yeah.
they they can be, demeaning, or very mean to a sibling, when the parents are, maybe, watching television in a different room, or, maybe the children are outside playing, or if they're different ages, when they're in the school system, they're not going to be in the same classrooms
Right.
together. They might not even be in the same school together. One might be elementary, one might be junior high. So, it it has to be, it definitely has to be monitored, but it really takes some seriousness from the parents to, they have to not assume that their family is perfect. Too often families assume, my child wouldn't do that, and you have to look at the possibility that there is negativity that might be in your little life that appears to be bright and shining.
Okay. Did you have another poem?
I'm not finding one, to be honest with you.
Okay, so I have
Was
one, but this is a child. This is actually a child who was kidnapped, but
That's sad.
it's very bad and demeaning. It's the worst. And this is called Musings of a Captured Child. She didn't know what day it was. Night and day didn't exist anymore. Only the endless pleasing of her masters and the few crumbs of freedom she found when she was allowed to go back to her bed. How long she had been there, she didn't know. Her mind had long since given up trying to count, and she endured the probings and pawings of desperate men whose tongues and fingers were nonstop on her body. She longed to be back in her own bed at home, where she could take up her old life, though she felt no one would want her now. She was damaged goods and fit only for a life of debauchery and pain. Her body carried old and new bruises from the countless encounters she had. Each time she curled her insides up, presenting the serene face of a 13-year-old whose virginity had been stripped of her. She was lost in a sea of chaos, floundering in the wild waves of defeat, each day no better than the next, praying soon someone would save her as she clung hopelessly to the thread of hope.
Yeah, that's very.
And that is demeaning behavior of a child. And unfortunately, too many children have had this happen to them. And child trafficking is a big, big thing in the world, unfortunately.
We talked about child trafficking before, and it is huge, and I think it's growing. And unfortunately, sometimes at night when I cannot sleep, I listen to some videos of individuals that have been involved in sexual trafficking. And often, they're sold into that by their parents. Or one lady, she had talked about that when she was approximately 3 years of age, her father had molested her. And then by the time that she was 5 years of age, she was shared with her father's friends, and her, mother had taught her how to be friendly to a man, how to look at them, how to talk to them. And it just went on until, she became to a certain age. And then she was married to the son of one of her father's friends, and it continued. So, it blows my mind to think of what happens to children, because I know that there are incidents where there's child abuse, and there might be someone that is abused by a family member. But when I think of these children that are just abused by multiple people, like you're talking about, just the helplessness of it, it just totally blows my mind how this can happen. And it
And
totally blows my mind how a man or a woman, it can be a woman as well, but how a man could actually procure um, a child at 4 or 5 years of age to engage in sex with. I mean, that just totally blows my mind. To me, it's just like, what the F?
it's
And
very sick. It's
it
a
is
sick
very sick,
situation, and I
very
I
sick.
think that kind of thing is very demeaning it's demeaning behavior to all involved. And
Oh, it is, but how do you stop it? I mean, a lot of this is international sex trafficking,
they're
and
trying,
you know,
they try, but it's very hard.
I mean, you have
I know someone who was in that situation, a little bit older, but she was in that situation. Her own father was giving her, he had abused her, and then he was giving her to his friends.
Yeah.
And she wound up being severely damaged. I mean, with bipolar disease and weight problems and so forth. And I think that she now can think about it, but it just destroyed her. And any kind of sexual abuse, which we talked about, can be demeaning behavior.
demeaning behavior to the extreme. And I know working in the healthcare setting, I have seen, even babies that have had, been sexually molested, that were in the, neonatal intensive, in the intensive care unit, the children's intensive care unit, and some will pass away. So I just don't know how people could have such a lack of control over their sexual desires and have so many abnormalities. And it just simply blows my mind. And it's not just children, they do it with animals as well.
I
And
know.
it's a terrible topic. I know it's a terrible topic, but demeaning behaviors also can just be, a lot of times women who are not attractive are demeaned, older women are demeaned, men who are not attractive are demeaned, people who are handicapped are demeaned. If you see somebody that's in a wheelchair, most people are very helpful, and other people are just like, oh my, and they just think that they're less than worthy of being
Right.
alive because
There
they
you
have
bring up
health
a very important
healthcare
point.
issues. And
Right.
aging process, a lot of people are not really in favor of a lot of programs and assistance for the elderly, even though they were productive members in society and gave so much to society. So I think demeaning behaviors are just an appearance.
Right.
It's a lot to do with it, and sometimes economic status. A lot of times that people talk about how they always help people, but at the same time, if they were to see a homeless person, they would definitely make sure that they did not make eye contact, or that they would not, be helpful, offer $1 if it's in a safe environment, of course. I mean, I would not recommend anybody to do anything in an unsafe environment. But we talk about how we're such caring people, especially in the United States of America. I can't talk for other countries, that we're humanitarians. And we write so many poems about how we care about so many people, and how we love people, and we help people, and we have, empathy for people and compassion for people. But then at the same time, our actions do not back that up.
No, I agree. And just the way people have been demeaned. I mean, I wish Levon was here because we could talk about that, but we can't really talk about it without him here. But it is Black History Month, and you can say that the whole idea of slavery demeaned African American people
It did.
to the point where some of them didn't feel worthy enough to be out in society, and some of them never would look up or I mean, it's been a whole long, slow process to bring this feeling out of people. Because once that's happened, it's that's a culturally thing, it was
It,
culturally codified.
yeah,
And
it can
yeah,
be.
and now there are still people in the country who have not gotten over the demeaning behavior and still feel that way inside. You can no longer feel that way outside, but there are some people who still feel that way inside, and because of that, show demeaning behavior in the way that they deal with people. And that is demeaning behavior. I mean, that kind of behavior. And look at the way people treat some immigrants who can't speak English. That's demeaning behavior. When someone can't speak English, instead of helping them, some people make fun of them and send them back to where they belong. I mean, that's crazy behavior and demeaning.
Well, I was listening to these young Black men, college age, all very highly intelligent, and they were talking about white privilege. And did they believe that white privilege existed? And actually, none of these gentlemen believe that it existed currently, because they were all successful. They had not had any barriers in their lives or their careers. They were all college educated. But the one gentleman stated that the only thing that he really thought was an issue was the attainment of generational wealth. That because that so many Blacks were 3/4, citizen, and whites were 100%, and that the whites were accumulating property and financial wealth, that they could pass this down to the next generation, and so on and so forth. And he said that he did not think that the Blacks had that same opportunity as early, or the right to vote, so they were in the process of catching up. But none of these young men thought that they had an issue with white privilege for what they had encountered, and they all had a very positive outlook on it. And some of them believe that you have to be productive, and you can't be taken seriously if you're running around with your pants hanging down and your underwear showing, and think that that people are going to automatically assume that you're a productive person, or you're trying to better yourself in society. So I thought it was very interesting, especially the aspect of the generational wealth, and how they had not had that privilege. But I was really impressed with the positive attitude of these young men. And maybe it's generational, because every generation experiences different things. The Blacks in this country in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, all in the 70s, 80s, things have improved in many ways. As far as prejudice goes, it's never going to be 100%. And unfortunately, because humans are, I don't know what's wrong with humans, that they have to have a prejudicial nature, but so many do. But yeah, I really enjoyed listening to these men, and actually it enriched my thought process.
Well, that's a good thing to hear because it means that whatever steps were taken to try to boost the confidence of young Black people, they helped. And it when I was growing up, I'm sure that wasn't the case. I'm sure you would have had a whole different discussion at that point. But now it's good to see that there's hope that people will. I think it's all people are demeaned because of the idea of the other. And there always has to be an other in a group, someone that is not part of the group. Even if all of the group is the same, there's always one other. And that other person is someone who just doesn't go along with everything. They're not the same. They have different opinions or different look or different something, but maybe we'll just take this very stupid example. All people have blue eyes and there's one brown-eyed person there. Well, the brown-eyed person is not going to have the privileges that all the blue-eyed people have because they're the other. So when you're the other, you either have to be embraced by the people who are not like you, or you have to be demeaned. And it's usually the case that they are demeaned, sadly. People who are other are demeaned. So if you're other and you're demeaned, I'm Jewish. I've gone through that situation where I didn't feel quite as up to whatever was going on because I have been demeaned in my life before being Jewish, not by people telling me that I was wrong, but by people excluding me and not even telling me that I was being excluded because I was Jewish, but just because that was the case in those days, that you were excluded from certain things because you were Jewish. My brother joined a country club that would never have had him 25 years ago.
And I think I've mentioned, and I've written a poem before, where I was very excited when I was 15 years of age because my father was going to join the country club. And I thought, yay, but he did not, because after he read the bylaws and really reviewed what was going on, Jewish people and Black people were not allowed. And at that time, his best friend was a Jewish gentleman. And so he just thought, I cannot participate in this type of organization that has that type of prejudice and biases against people. And so, everybody has to stand on the same ground. You don't have to like somebody, but I think as far as respecting people, we owe that to each other, to respect each other. And if I do not like somebody, I think that I should not, let's say I do not like somebody because they're different than me, but I just don't like them because I don't like them. It's not because they're different than me, because you're not always going to like somebody. And I don't think that you should have to like everybody, but I think you should have to respect everybody.
I agree. And that kind of demeaning behavior has put people in a situation where they're never quite sure how you're going to be treated. I have always been wary of situations where there have been people who are not like me. And so I have always tried to toe the line and be very, very quiet in those situations and not say anything. And I'm always very happy and surprised when I find that I've been wrong, that I don't need to worry. It's like,
That is a good thing. But even if you're with a homogeneous population, and like I moved around all my life because of my dad's position with the federal government. So I was always the new kid on the block. So it was always like you were always an outsider. Even though you were mostly in a homogeneous population, you were still an outsider. And a lot of times you were not totally accepted. And by the time you would become accepted, you'd move on to someplace else. So I think sometimes it does not necessarily have to be that you're different in a religion or gender or a race, but sometimes it's just that you're what is perceived as an outsider. And if you're perceived as an outsider, maybe that's what the other is, then there's going to be negative consequences or negative perceptions about that individual. And I do not know why we do that. And
I don't know either, but I agree, because I had to change. I thought about it. I had to change schools when I was in high school, and I had to come into a school as a junior high school, and I did not feel welcomed at all.
And see, I went to 3 different high school, Illinois, Utah, and South Korea. So, I had 3 changes where you come into an environment.
Right. And I remember feeling demeaned by the dean of students, who told us that if we didn't have a dental note, we had to leave. We couldn't come into school without a dental note. And I felt demeaned by that fact, that I had to leave because I didn't have a dental note, and I wasn't aware of it because it wasn't on the information that was given to my parents. It's like thrown at me.
And then all the other children are like, oh, wonder why she had to leave.
And I had to leave the auditorium, the only one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my parents spent the entire night. And this is such a traumatic experience to me. They made me feel so bad that I had to go to school, because they spent the entire night haranguing me that there was no place else for me to go, and I had to go, and that was it. And I couldn't go to the other high school, which was Forest Hills High School, because I was on the opposite corner. It was, if you were on one side of the street, you could go to Forest Hills. On this side, you had to go to Richmond Hill. So I liked the school. It was old and awful, and I didn't know any of the kids. And it's just like, at least I had, my cousins went to Forest Hills, and I had a friend across the street who was going there. And I just, that's demeaning too, that whole way that people, look at situations. And when I went into the school, everyone was in cliques. So it was very hard.
Yeah, it's hard to get involved in cliques, especially some of the cliques that probably have gone on since, the children were born.
Right. They were all knew each other. So yeah.
Knew each
it was
other all
very
their
hard.
lives. And so
But
it's a different environment. And
yeah.
I'm glad now that that's the type of life I live, because, now it's I don't feel insecure if I'm not the center of attention. I don't feel insecure if I'm not included, because it doesn't make who I am, and it's not important. It is when you're young, but I think when you get older, you realize, hey, this only enriched me. It didn't hurt me. It
Oh,
only,
someone's here.
huh?
Masimi is here.
Oh, great.
It's late, but hi.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Simi. She's connecting to audio. Hello, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Hello, Barbara, ma'am. I was trying to join. Finally, I could. I'm just getting in. Give me 1 minute.
Wonderful. So we're waiting for Miss Simi. You're still muted. Unmute yourself. Oh, she's probably doing stuff. But yeah, that situation of being a new person in school, it can be very demeaning.
Yes.
And that kind of behavior can be demeaning to you as a person, going into a new group and being part of a new group and having to deal with people who know each other constantly. You know, it's very difficult. And I just, I'm on classmates, so I just reconnected with a classmate of mine, and he was telling me about his, situation and how he knew these people, and I didn't know them. I didn't know any of them. And you can be in a very big school and not know everybody in your class, But
That's
I
true.
remember his name in my yearbook, but I can't find my yearbook. That's the other thing that's really bothering me. Is I put my yearbook somewhere and I can't find it now. And all of these people that I see on classmates, I'd like to see if I knew them, It's hard. It's like 60. Oh God.
Hope you can see me.
Hello.
Hey,
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
you are late, but we're so happy to have you.
I was trying since long. I don't know what was happening, but finally I could. I'm so happy.
Great. So do you have a poem? Because we've read ours. Okay, please
Yes, I
read it.
have. See, people judge you. People judge you. People judge your actions. People judge your talks. People judge your independence when you are a woman and you are independent. And similarly, I'm also being judged. And yesterday only and such a wonderful issue, Barbara ma'am and Melissa ma'am, you have talked about today. You have raised this because I have been facing this. I'm a working woman traveling all around the world just because of my work. So here is my poem, Character Assassination. So, who gave you the right to measure my walks? Who gave you the right to measure my walks? Why should you give your ears to my talks? Who are you to question my independence? Who gave you the right to measure my walks? Why should you give your ears to my talks? Who are you to question my independence? Why should I give justifications in my defense? I may walk and work with many men. I may voice my opinions with the power of my pen. I may travel around the world time and again. Mark your words, as you cannot question. My character is my pride. My character is my pride. Your demeaning words have no right for my character assassination. Your insecurity is felonious. Your insecurity is felonious. Why is your heart so jealous? Your demeaning letters won't bend my mind. I feel pity for your heart with words so maligned. So this is to all the women, all the female, all the human beings on this earth. Live the life you have chosen for yourself. Just give a deaf ear to the people who are judging you, judging your walks, because nobody has the right to throw demeaning words to you.
That's wonderful. Yes, wonderful. We didn't even get into the subject of women because now we have 3 women. We can discuss that subject.
Yeah, it's like, people will question your independence. People will say, oh, you are traveling around, you're working, like, because we have colleagues, we have male colleagues, we have female colleagues. I have to travel around, but nobody has got the right to question me. Why? Because you are not feeding me, I'm feeding myself. I'm working for myself. I'm independent, right, Melissa ma'am and Barbara ma'am? So it's like, who are you to question me? You are not running my home, I'm running my home. Right. And if I'm not harming anyone, if I'm not doing anything wrong, if my conscience is true, then nobody has got the right to question me.
Absolutely. And to demean you for your work. I mean, your work is you. And the fact that somebody is demeaning you for your work, that's just like, what? What is going on there? We lost you.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, people should not demean other people for being productive members of society. And actually, we should applaud your accolades, and we should embrace it, especially as females. And you're a younger female than Barbara and I. And, I think it's fantastic that you're a worldwide traveler and that you have done so much with your life. And I think more females should do that. I can remember when I first started in the healthcare community, that it was very difficult for a female to become a physician. And it was a rarity because she had so many men that she had to be with. She always had to be the best and the brightest. And then I can remember now, women are about half of the class of medical students. So about half of the physicians being developed in the USA now are females. So that has changed probably in the last 25 years. And
Right.
so we should applaud, not, I don't know why anybody would want to demean you. I'm like, Barbara, why would anybody want to do that? Unless they were just jealous. Or with men, sometimes they want to control women. And obviously they know that you're not the type of female that they can control. So
Especially in your industry and publishing, I mean, women are getting more and more power in that industry, but it used to be controlled only by men. And I can see how, especially in India, how men still view women. Women are still not where they should be. I know where you
Because and being a writer, you have to travel around. It's not only publishing. I'm a ghost writer, I'm an editor. I have to take projects of and I have to run around. I have to meet clients. I have to take their stories. I have to write. I'm managing content. So you cannot question. That's my job. I have to meet people. I have to write their stories. I have to take note of them. So when you are not feeding me, when you do not know what I'm doing, you have no right to question me, because you're not feeding my home, you're not feeding me. And I'm not dependent on anyone, I'm dependent on myself. So I should be proud of myself that I'm working so much. And so yesterday only I faced this. Someone said, oh, you would find so many men, you are moving around, you are traveling around the world. And it's like, who are you to question me? That's my job. I'm meeting people. I'm taking notes of the stories I'm writing. You have no right to question my character, because you cannot assassinate my character. I know what I'm doing.
they assume that a beautiful woman like you would be looking for a man. They don't realize that you are not set on that goal. That if it comes, I'm sure that you wouldn't say no, but you're not looking for it. You're not in your role as what you're doing, which is as a publisher, as a ghostwriter, as a woman who's in business. You are looking to grow your business, and you're looking to be independent and make a name for yourself. And so when someone says that, it demeans you very much. And they shouldn't be demeaning you, because you are a strong woman, and good for you for standing up and telling them, I love that poem.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Well, we were talking about, we read a few poems about betrayal and demeaning behavior. And what do you know, what else do you have to say about demeaning behavior?
Demeaning behavior, let me say you, in a world like, we as humans, they do not see the positivity of a character. They're always looking for the negatives. For example, see, every human has got positives and negatives. And as human, we do not look for the positives. We are trying to dig out the negatives and trying to demean that human, be he or she be a woman or a man. Because I do not know the story of the other person. When I do not know the story of the other person, I do not have the right to demean him or her. For example, I'll just start from a home. It starts right from home.
I was just
Parents'
talking about that.
expectation.
Yes.
Yeah, it starts right from home. You're demeaning your family members. When the parents grow old, you are demeaning them. You just forget the role they have played in your lives. You are what you are today because of your parents. But the time comes that children, they forget. Yeah, or they get lost in the noise of this world to know what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes they put harsh words, but they fail to understand that very simple word which came out from their mouth can hurt the other person to a different level.
Yes, I know, because I live with my two grown daughters, and occasionally, most of the time we're friends, but occasionally I have to step in as mother. And occasionally too, they will say things to me that are very hurtful, you know? And I tell them right then that they are hurting me and that they can't talk to me like that they have no right to talk to me like that. And then they rethink what they're saying and eventually will apologize. But it it's very important that people understand, just like you, that you should not take demeaning behavior. You should not let someone ever make you feel smaller than you are. You know, it's very important. I learned that because if you don't step in right at that moment and say, who are you to judge me like you did just now? Who are you to say that to me? What gives you that right to say anything to me? Then that is when the crack begins and people can start to think, oh, this person is a little weak. I can move in and dig in deeper and deeper. And that's when it happens that people get demeaned to the point where they can't say anything more, because
We
now,
also,
yeah, it's
I was just going to say that we also discussed demeaning women when they become older, or if they're not physically attractive, or if they have put on some weight as they've aged, or there's a lot of reasons why men demean females, because they have this idealistic appearance of women. And I get tickled because men are always talking about how they like natural looking women, but so many of the women that I see on Facebook, they use apps to make themselves more attractive, or they've got so much makeup on, and yet they're being called the most beautiful women in the world, and they are very pretty, and they're probably very beautiful without makeup. But we set these standards for females of beauty, but then at the same time, we do not really want women to be who they are. And where you're not afraid of being who you are and being successful, and traveling and working hard and being independent, that I think a lot of people in society still do not accept an independent female. And I think even in the USA, where Barbara mentioned that India was behind, but I think there's a lot of that still exists in the USA as well, that independent women are not always perceived as quality people, and maybe the reasons of their success was because of things that they did to get there that was inappropriate in actions.
Yeah,
Right,
I think,
absolutely.
yeah. Go ahead.
It happens, like, this demeaning starts from home,
Yes, it does.
and it is carried forward. You go to an institution, you go to a workplace. For example, Melissa ma'am just said, like, you, with time, you gain weight. Your body may go through many hormonal changes. I'm a woman, I may go through many changes, and you cannot question why, how, when, you know so you cannot mark any comment on my body. All right, who knows what I'm going through? Did Like, have you ever tried to know what I'm going through before commenting, before throwing a demeaning remark to the other person?
Well, I
Right.
noticed that not every man is married to a very slender and gorgeous woman. They are married sometimes to quite large women, or or women who you wouldn't think are so beautiful. But that's the thing, is not that the weight I always felt demeaned. My husband, my late husband, unfortunately, would harangue me about my weight occasionally. And I wasn't heavy, but I was too heavy at the time for him. And he wanted me to lose weight, and he kept pestering me. And it demeaned me to the point where I just tell him, leave me alone. I'll do it when I want to. And when I did do it, of course, he was all over me. But but the thing is that a woman should not have to lose weight to be attractive to a man. And I told him that, and so not all men feel that way about women, but it is demeaning to think that your weight has something to do with you as a person. And that is something that women should understand. And that's a lot of the reason why all of these weight loss programs go on, because women think they have to be a certain weight, they have to look a certain way. I mean, as long as you feel healthy and you are doing what you're supposed to do for your body, if you're a little overweight, that's your business, right? Not anybody else's.
Well, what bothers me is cosmetic surgery, because I know a lot of women that are 20, 25 years younger than I am, that I am friends with. And, they're starting to get Botox and do procedures to make themselves look younger. And goodness gracious, these women are absolutely gorgeous. But, there is such society, the news media, everything, television, everything, Hollywood, Bollywood, everything, shows that women need to have this perfection. And I see more and more women that are succumbing to these procedures that do not need them. And it's worrisome to me, because I think in the long run, you'll harm yourself, and that you need to accept who you are. And
That's what women fail to accept, like, what she is herself. I should accept, okay, health is wealth, we have to take care of our health, we have to,
yes,
that's different. But to please others, you are taking,
yes,
that you, if you are taking care of your health, or if you are getting thin, slim, you're going to the gym or taking care of your diet for your health, that is different. But just
yes.
to please a man, just to please someone, you are, you're because you may have certain problems. There are women, even if they try, they do not lose weight, because due to hormonal changes, due to certain problems in life, due to stress. Women are into so many, wherever in the world, whichever country, women have great responsibilities. The children, the husband, they themselves, the house, everything. Women are all powerful, so you cannot expect them to go to gym every time and walk around. And there are so many things that they get entrapped. And while doing so, they fail to focus on their health. So taking care of your health for your own self is different, and getting thin or getting slim, going for cosmetic surgery just to please a man or please somebody else, that is not keeping your identity.
No, and I think my daughter and I were talking about that a lot of people are not getting this kind of surgery because of the fact that they have found that these things you put into your especially the collagen and the fake breasts, they are very dangerous for women.
Yes, but
And they should not be having this surgery, because a lot of people have had serious side effects from it. But
Seriously.
you can see I am growing old, and you can tell I'm not wearing that much makeup, just a little blush and eyeshadow, and I can see the wrinkles, but I don't care. They're there. They're there for my years of aggravation and stress. And I think that you should not do anything to please anyone but yourself.
absolutely.
And we should not accept any demeaning remarks from everyone. How dare someone, throw demeaning remarks to you? Because you are living your life, you are not dependent on somebody else. It's your life. You are living with your own principles. How can they throw demeaning remarks to you?
Exactly.
And
No
see,
one should tell you what to do, because you are your own person. And that is something that I think some men don't understand. They think that they can tell all women what to do because they're men. And they
and
can
not
say
even
whatever
men.
they
We
want.
also we also find women in the society. It's not only men. I have met women also in the society. I still remember someone, asking me, you go around the world and you don't think about, like, you just think about yourself. What's your life like? You are today, you are here, tomorrow you are there. What's this like? It's not even men, even women, question. Then I have only one question, statement to them: Are you living your life? Are you living your life? If you cannot live your life the way you want to, then when you reach your deathbed, you'll regret the life you lived. Today, I
Yes,
was listening to a wonderful video. A nurse had written a book, and she interviewed many people who were about to die, and all regretted only on one thing. They said, I should have lived my life the way I wanted to.
That's it. If you don't live your life the way you wanted to, you get up in the morning and you say, I'm going to do this, and somebody stops you from doing it, and you don't do it because of that situation, then that's what happens. You have to do what you want to do. And, you can't have these regrets that you didn't do what you wanted to do, that's what I feel. And that's what I felt. Because I'm on my own, although I live with my daughters. I don't feel demeaned by society because I don't let myself get into situations where I will be in that, situation. And I think that when you hold yourself like you do, with such confidence and strength that you will be able to ward off any demeaning situation. You can tell them to go F themselves, you know.
This is what we need to teach every woman. See, Barbara ma'am, you, Melissa ma'am, you, I, we are strong women. You are holding a show now on this topic. All right, we can voice. We have got the power of the pen, but not all women have. So the entire the human class, they have to understand that nobody has got the right to judge any person and throw demeaning remarks to anybody else. Because you, I, Melissa ma'am, we are strong. We can bear it, we can fight it, we can, ignore your comments, but not all women. There are so many females who are entrapped with these demeaning remarks, and they struggle within themselves. They face depression and they sacrifice their own dreams, they sacrifice their own principles, own wishes, and they just leave like, I do not know, they just breed, they do not live. So this is very important that every human being on this earth should understand, every human, that every human has the right to live his life according to his or her principles, if he or she is not wrong, if he or she is not hurting and harming anybody else.
Exactly. And that philosophy is what I think will help us to move other women to understand, if you're in a demeaning situation, if you're listening to this and you're in a demeaning situation, I suggest that you rethink your whole life.
And women should lift up younger females, not demeaning.
Yes. Yes.
I can remember working with, we had an intern in our office that happened to also be a nursing student. And she had won a lot of beauty contests. She was almost 6 foot tall, blonde, and just absolutely gorgeous. So she had difficulty finding clothing that fit her, or really, dresses and skirts that was long enough for her because she was so tall, and she always wore high-heeled shoes. And some of the older women were really demeaning her and telling her, "Why are you wearing those shoes? They're very uncomfortable." And I just looked at her one day and I said, "I can tell you what, if I was your age, I'd have those high-heeled shoes on and I'd be prancing and dancing all around this hospital." Because, I just could not believe that these women were demeaning her. She ended up, she was an excellent nurse. She became an intensive care unit nurse. And why they did that, was it because she was young and attractive that they felt insecure? Or maybe because she had chosen the life that she wanted to live? But I really think that we should uplift other women. And women talk about wanting to be in power in the world, but women will never be in power as long as they're not supportive of each other. And I think that's the difference between women and men, that women are demeaning towards each other to the point when they get to the corporate level or they get into administrative positions, that that a lot of the females do not support them, and they're very condescending or demeaning towards them. And we cannot do that.
I have seen that with my daughter. She is a manager at her firm, and she has a manager above her. And she has some people underneath her who are mostly women. And the woman who is her manager above her does not defer to my daughter's expertise. And she gets in trouble because, not in trouble to the point where she's in trouble, but in trouble in her head, because she picks on somebody who doesn't have as much experience as she to do things that my daughter knows. And so she's having this back and forth with this woman who is not trusting her, who is above her.
She's intimidated by you.
Lifting her up as she should,
She's
This my daughter
intimidated by
should be
your
moved
daughter.
up another level. She
Yep.
has that much experience. But I think maybe being jealous of her because this other woman doesn't have Sarah's informational experience.
She's intimidated
You know,
by your daughter's
yeah,
expertise.
she's just too good at what she does. And so my daughter is really getting into this conflict and feeling demeaned by the fact that she's not getting the work that she should be getting because this other person is giving it to somebody who has less experience. And then she is having to swoop in and fix it all because it's not working out properly.
That's just a difficult place for your daughter to be.
That is a difficult place, but a woman should be lifting her up instead
Absolutely.
of pushing her down. She should be lifting her up and giving her more and more responsibility and moving her up so that she's in that position. But no,
And so many of the individuals that males, that have become billionaires, eh, they trusted people with their expertise in areas that they were not knowledgeable in. And your daughter's boss should be doing that. She should be glad that she has somebody knowledgeable in an area that she does not have to monitor. And she should learn from your daughter, not try to, demean
yeah,
your daughter.
no, it's a very difficult situation. My daughter is thinking about moving from her company because of it. And
That's a
I,
shame.
This is where human fail. Human compel a human to, and it's not the loss of your daughter, it is the loss of that company. They are losing a talent.
Yes.
they will, if they continue to demean her in that fashion, they will lose her as a very, very valuable person. She's brought in a lot of clients to them because of her service. She isn't a salesperson, but she works with the salespeople, and she's brought in a lot of people because of her service, the way she deals with clients and her service. And she's not a demeaning person, but some people are very demeaning. They don't treat clients and people like people. That's another thing, the way you get treated sometimes by companies. They demean you in a way that's very damaging. You don't want to. The whole idea of having to wait so long for service with companies is very demeaning to people.
Yes, it is.
Very, very demeaning. Anyway, I think we have really covered this topic. Anything more you want to say, Melissa, before we end this discussion?
I just think, as we've all mentioned, it starts with the family, the home life, and we're all past that age. I do not have children. You still have children, Barbara, that you're probably still developing, even though they're adult women. But we should develop each other. We should support each other. And I really think that there's a lack of character and a lack of your own self-esteem when you demean other people. And I just think that it's wrong, and I think it can be very hurtful. And I just don't think that it's behaviors that are appropriate. And yeah, we shouldn't do it. It's naughty. It's just like, don't be haughty. It's naughty.
And
It's a good
Missy,
note. Yes, so nicely said, Melissa, ma'am. It's like, yes, like, why should you care if someone even judges you? You should, follow your own principles.
Yes.
And we as humans should learn, at every step of our life, that never demean others and never let yourself to be demeaned by others.
Yes.
that's excellent. And I'll just end with the fact that if we go forward from this experience and try to carry some of that with us through our days that maybe we can do a little bit in helping to stop this kind of behavior. And if we see it, we should stop it. So thank you so much for joining us, Musimi and Melissa.
Thank you.
And we will have this again next month. We haven't decided on our topic. Let's think about a topic that all can be interested in. Maybe we'll have more people, but I like these small groups.
Right,
You
right,
joined
right.
us late. I really think Melissa and I had a very interesting discussion. And I think that we can all together find a way to live with some of these awful situations. I don't know what else we're going to talk about next month, but it's March.
Yes. And I think we indirectly have a positive, influence on people. And we should use
Right.
that power, even if it's something very simple. And we need to use that power to influence people in a positive manner. Even if we're doing it indirectly, we need to do that.
Actually, you are very right. So I think that next month we will be meeting in March, the last Saturday in March.
We cannot meet the last Saturday in March because I am taking a workshop and it's going to be all
Oh,
day.
okay. So we can't meet the last Saturday in March.
So maybe the one prior to that.
Maybe the Saturday before that, that would be the 18th of March. Okay.
Awesome.
So we'll try and do it on the 18th of March. And that will be our next time. And thank you so much for everybody who is listening to this, watching us. And we hope that you have gained something from our presentation. And will join us, all of our poetry friends. Hope you will join us next time. And
Sure.
so I'm saying goodbye. Melissa,
Thank you
say
so much, Mom.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye and good
Good
night.
night.
And
Bye.
Good night.
good night to you, Musimi. Good morning and good afternoon to Melissa. And I hope that the rest of your day and the rest of your night go great. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Love y'all.
This is from Connecticut.
Love you.
Bye-bye.